You ready to hit the water, Julie?
Always.
Yeah.
I'm a water person. I love it. Love
The
swimming.
problem is sometimes people are hitting something else before they hit the water. You know what I mean?
Oh, like adult beverages?
The sauce, yeah.
Well, it's not a good combination, ever.
No, and we've got a story about a guy who's seen a few of those problems.
Incidents, yeah.
Yeah, and he's got some advice. Judge Brian Poindexter is going to explain what you shouldn't be doing out on the water.
Yeah, so before you boat and float, watch this segment.
We're with Judge Brian Poindexter with the Carmel City Courts. Brian, what will we be talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about safe summer fun, and people are going to be taking to the lakes very soon, and we want to talk about those violations that they should avoid.
So we are going to be diving right into it. So tell us and our viewers, what are some of the things that people can avoid?
Well, the first trip to the lake is often the one that's the most complicated or gives people is where they'll make the first mistake. And these are going to be like the top 5 most common violations that can get you a ticket with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. The first would be, remember, enough life jackets so that there is one life jacket for each adult on the boat. And that's common sense. If there's an accident, you want to have a life jacket.
Safety first.
Safety is first. Number 2, your boat needs to be registered each and every year. The registration is done through the Indiana Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and each boat should display the registration numbers down the side of the boat and a new tag each year to show that the boat is currently registered. And number 3, just like operating a motor vehicle, when you're out on the lake or you're behind the wheel, you need to be very careful about consuming alcohol. A lot of people might take a cooler with refreshments to the lake, and they might enjoy some refreshments while they're on the lake, but you can actually be arrested for drunken boating in Indiana.
Oh, yes. Very good point.
So you want to be careful and monitor your consumption. You can actually get a speeding ticket of a sort on the lake. In order to protect our reservoirs and lakes, there is what is known as an idle zone speed, where the boat just enough to move it down the lake safely so that you don't disturb the vegetation along the lake or boats or other things that might be close by. And at night, there's a speed limit. Did you know that?
I did, but maybe our viewers don't.
Right, so your viewers may not know this. After dark, when you're on the reservoir, your boat needs to have stern lights and bow lights so that people will see your boat moving across the water. But there's a 10-mile-an-hour nighttime speed limit in Indiana on all of our inland lakes.
Very nice.
And that's a rather common violation for me to see in my court. The next one, and this is the 5th one in the series, if you are going to tow someone behind your boat, either on a tube or on a ski, you have to have an observer. So if you go to the lake with one buddy, you're not going to be towing anybody behind the boat. You have to have a second person that will turn and watch the tuber and watch the skier so that they'll know to tell the driver to stop if the person falls. And so you can circle back and retrieve the tuber or retrieve the skier.
Yes, very good point.
Those are the top 5 that the Indiana Department of Natural Resources routinely reports that they see most common across the entire state.
So what would be some of the ramifications in terms of violations and the impact of that violation to the boater?
Well, there's a fair amount of discretion given to the conservation officer or the officer enforcing the law with the Department of Natural Resources. Certainly, they might give you a lecture. They also have the absolute authority to issue a citation ordering you to come into court. Most of the violations today, with the exception of drunken boating, most of the violations are an infraction. Often a Class C infraction, punishable by a fine of up to $500 per occurrence, plus court costs. And court costs are currently $135.
Oh, wow.
And they can be expensive.
Yeah.
Now, if you were charged with a criminal offense, such as drunken boating, well, you could end up in jail. You could end up with your driving privileges suspended and a host of other problems that would best to be avoided.
Very good, Judge. I certainly appreciate that. I'm sure our viewers do too.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no question. Glad to join us today. Judge Brian Poindexter with us talking about boat safety tips and being careful out there on the lakes. This is Kevin Kimbrough, LifeStyle Indy.